What's up and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars, where today we're bringing it back to the world of Nicholas Sparks with his 9th film adaptation, The Best of Me. In my review of Safe Haven, I had mentioned that there was a possibility that I saw this movie before, but I just didn't remember it, and I guess that's true. I did once see it. I even wrote a review for it on my website, and I still don't remember watching it. Doesn't bode very well for the film, but The Best of Me is definitely a film that you'll probably recognize as the one starring James Marsden and Michelle Monaghan. James Marsden previously played a supporting role in The Notebook, but this is his Nicholas Sparks film, which is unfortunate because The Notebook is far superior. That being said, let's return to a world with men full of probity, and let's get cracking. This review is brought to you by the word of the day, probity, integrity, and uprightness, aka honesty. The Best of Me stars James Marsden and Michelle Monaghan as two people who fell in love 20 years ago and for whatever reason lead separate lives in the modern day. When a mutual friend of theirs dies, the two are reunited once again for the funeral and sparks fly. But will it last this time, or will the shape of history's past define the future? Biggest thing about this movie is the casting. I wanted to talk about that right off the bat because it's the elephant in the room. Why? Because the person who was supposed to play a younger version of James Marsden during the flashbacks in the year 1992 looks like this. That's not James Marsden. You want to see James Marsden in 1992? Here. Still looks like James Marsden, doesn't it? This guy looks like a mixture between Thomas Jane, Stephen Moyer, and Heath Ledger. I'm sorry, but the casting for this movie is complete and utter garbage. The actor they chose has the wrong jawline, wrong eyes, wrong nose, wrong mouth, wrong everything. Even his voice is completely off and deeper than James Marsden. How is the audience supposed to buy that these two people are one and the same if the only things that they have in common is their gender and skin color? I get it. Suspension of disbelief, right? Well, that's a pretty big suspension of disbelief, guys. That's all I'm saying. But that doesn't really say anything about the story. Okay, well, what is the story? It's about a long thought-to-be-dead flame being rekindled through flashbacks and the love of an old man. Yes, it's a cheap knockoff of The Notebook, and yes, it's once again full of Nicholas Sparks tropes that he's known for, at least one, but probably more themes revolving around deaths and a passionate scene in the rain. The only movie that technically still had these tropes but were approached differently so far was Safe Haven. But I have a couple more movies to see yet. We'll see where Nicholas Sparks eventually takes us, but is there anything good about this movie? Yes, there's undoubtedly heart. Gerald McRaney is once again playing a very relatable and lovable man full of wisdom and heart. I swear to God, I have loved every role I've ever seen him fill. From Jericho to This Is Us to his role as Tuck here. He's so good at what he does and is easily the best part of the movie by far. In fact, the only reason this movie isn't scored any lower is because of his role. Similarly to Richard Jenkins' role in Dear John, these guys save the movies because as an audience member, regardless on how good or bad the movie is, these characters bring heart and soul to the film and just keep it alive just enough for it to stand out. Otherwise, the entire movie would just be cliche and predictable, which it still is, granted, but Gerald's character is at least warm and welcome. Overall, I'd say that I was mostly underwhelmed by the movie. Even if they got the casting spot on and perfect, the entirety of the plot would be rather bland and cliche. But because the casting is just so bad, you kind of have to scratch your head and ask yourself, why was that? I mean, who would you cast as a young James Marsden like that? James Marsden has a very specific face. I'm not sure you could cast a young version of him, which makes me think they needed to cast a different person in the role. In fact, Paul Walker was originally cast in James Marsden's place, but he died, so they had to replace him. But this kid doesn't even look like Paul Walker, so whoever did the casting, I just gotta say, man, you did a terrible, awful job. Let's go ahead and break down my final score for a second. From an unbiased technical level, I would say that this film is wholly safe. It doesn't really take very many risks, and if anything, the casting was clearly poorly executed. The unbiased score is 52%, but because this movie is just so underwhelming, I gotta give my personal bias score a lower score at 40%. Averaging out the two scores together, we come to the final score of 46%, 46 out of 100 possible stars, or an F-letter grade. Out of every movie Nicholas Sparks has done, this is definitely one of the most forgettable, right alongside The Last Song. But tell me your thoughts on the film in the comments down below. Do you think I'm wrong and consider The Best of Me to be one of Nicholas Sparks' better film adaptations? Why or why not? As for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this review, because there's always more like it coming out each and every single day. Hit the subscribe button and bell to be notified when I come out with my next Nicholas Sparks movie review, which should be The Longest Ride. And until then, peace out.
Dave examines movies we just watch for fun. Davey is the expert. He is the #1 critic that I go to when I need a movie pick. up with us.